or do you have something else in
I
mind?
would, I would say just trusting my guys to be in their spots, not trying to do too much, get the ball out of my hands. There was one early out route that could have let the ball go to Odell, put it on the sideline for him to catch, and just moved on. But things like that.
Hey, Vic, I don't want to pound this Odell thing into the ground, but I'm just curious. Obviously, he's an incredible luxury to have as an offense and as a quarterback. But can there be a tricky balance between wanting to get him the ball and needing to get him the ball?
I think it has to come naturally. Obviously, you game plan and you scheme up things to get the balls in your playmakers' hands. But then when it comes to game time, they're going to give us certain looks that might take that away. We had a couple plays for him early on, and the Ravens did a good job of taking that away. So we had to go through the reads and get the ball in other guys' hands. So it's just when it comes to game time, yeah, you can practice, and you might have a certain look all week in practice, but then come game time, they might show you a different thing, and you got to react and play and just move on. It's got to come naturally.
Is that more difficult than it sounds, though, Big? Because you look over and he's one-on-one, and you're like, man, I got Odell one-on-one. Time to go to him.
Yeah, I mean, that's when the alert goes off in your head. We got one-on-one with him. You want to get him the ball, but it's got to be the right scenario and the right situation for us to do that.
Baker, when you came out, when you were drafted, all anybody ever talked about was your poise in the pocket. If you were to very fairly assess your poise in the pocket right now, is it where it was 3 years ago? Has it been affected? What do you think?
I'd say last year definitely declined, just based on protection and where my head was at. I'd say after looking at the film, pretty similar, and then just going through my reads, a little bit of improvement. I don't know.
When you say pretty similar, you mean to how you were in college, or pretty similar to a year ago?
Oh, college, or the first year, not last year.
Okay, so you feel fully comfortable. You feel more comfortable with your protection this year than you did a year ago?
Absolutely.
Baker, you said the other day that, that you hope this was a wake-up call. Can you tell any difference, resolve among the team, or maybe people are talking about working later tonight, or you know what I mean? Like just any better commitment from the guys?
I just think there's a sense of urgency. Shorter week, obviously there always will be, but just about the little corrections and things that we can do better to improve. Like I said, I think we hurt ourselves very early on in that game. And so I think the focus is on eliminating those mistakes and playing our game, especially on a short week. Just do your job, go out there and execute, and don't have those missed assignments and mental errors.
Will you work, though, with Odell at all? I mean, maybe catching a few extra balls or anything?
The short week's not you can't nearly get the physical work as the standard weeks. So it's more of a mental thing. Hey, here in this look, I'm expecting you to be here. And just we got to trust those things and go out there and be on the same page.
Yeah, Baker, how much potential remains there with this offense comparing, what you guys still think you can be versus, what we all saw in the opener?
I think obviously there's a ton of room for improvement, but it's not just false hopes. It's there. I thought we ran the ball well early on. Well, we got away from it.
1 minute.
It was a little bit different. Obviously the ebbs and flows of the game force you to do that. But, I thought we ran the ball well early and just finding more completions early on for me. I'm going to be focused on that to where just, we're smooth and just going up and down the field, keeping the chains moving.
Hey, Baker, what do you think it's going to feel like in the stadium on Sunday, Thursday night? You have 6,000 fans. It's different than no fans in Baltimore, and it's a home game. What do you expect atmosphere-wise?
Better be a rowdy 6,000 in those stands.
30.
Do you think that many people can bring some level of energy and normalcy?
Yeah, I mean, it'll feel a little bit different. I think the biggest difference from being out there on the field after talking to everybody, during the TV timeouts, it's just dead quiet.
Stand by.
So I think just having some fans in there will make a pretty big difference. But then again, it doesn't matter where we're playing, who we're in front of. You have to go out there and do your job each play and focus on that.
You up.
All right, coming up next, we'll take a look back at some of the comments Baker made there
What can we take from them? What does he have to do? What are some of the little improvements that need to be made in this passing game to get it caught up to where the running game is? Odell Beckham Jr. spoke to the media. We will get to that a little bit later on. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Knowing one's limit is important, whether it's a snap count for a football player or spending limit when you're playing the lottery. So if you like to gamble, set a limit beforehand and stick to it. Want to learn more? Go to keepitfunohio.com for helpful tips on how to keep gambling fun. You're at about 10 minutes there with Baker. And, the thing that I think is, if you're playing offense at any level, doesn't matter if you're 6-year-olds playing flag football as I did on Saturday, or you're playing in the National Football League as we saw week 1 over the weekend. If you're saying to yourself, if you feel pressure to get one person involved, it's all going to go to hell.
Yes.
And this idea that we have to force chemistry or force the ball to Odell or that is the intent. If that is the intent, it's a failure of intent. He got 10 targets. Now the targets weren't connected upon, but there were 10. Austin Hooper got 2. So if you say to yourself, what you want offense to be is you want it to be, see a read. If it doesn't work, go to second read. If that doesn't work, go to third read. Throw to the one that's open on time. That's football.
Right. You've got to play that point guard. And I think when people get in trouble or quarterbacks in the NFL get in trouble is when they've already made up their mind. If they've predetermined where they're going to go with the football before they acquire the post-snap information. You can get a lot pre-snap, and sometimes a guy like, some of the best in the game, they have a pretty good idea of where they want to go with the football before they get it. But when you predetermine, regardless of what the post-snap information is, that's not going to lead you to success. If you say, I'm throwing it here, basically, no matter what, chances are these defenses are pretty good, and sometimes they show you something different than what you thought you saw, or they make the play. So it's very much about being kind of open-minded, right? Open-minded to take what the defense gives you, and that can be a difficult thing. And, when you think about forcing it to a guy, remember how good Randy Moss was I'm old enough to remember, and some of you youngsters out there might not remember how good Randy Moss was.
Kids,
but
go Google him.
There was a year when Mike Tice, I want to say, was the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and they instituted what was called the Randy ratio. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember this.
Where I think he said 50% of their passes had to go to Randy Moss or something absurd like that. 40% of the passes. So this is 2002. Mike Tice said 40% of their passes have to go to Randy Moss. So when you do that, you can't take what the defense gives you. 4 out of 10 times you're being obligated by your coach to throw the ball to Randy Moss. And that's certainly not what's happening here, but there is some type of a pressure that goes along with it playing quarterback. And I think Odell, and we're going to hear from him in a few minutes, but he's like, people think all I care about is I just want to win, whatever that is. Yeah, you'd like to get it early. Everybody does. You want to touch it early, get into that rhythm, and it's same in basketball. When you're a scorer, you want to get a few shots, see the ball go in the basket, and that can steamroll. And Odell's going to use that analogy. But you've got to be open-minded to, here's my first read, here's my second read, here's my third read, and you've got to be able to boom, boom, boom. And if they're not there, then you check it down. And I think what Alex Van Pelt said, and this is something I think you all can watch, your feet tell you where you are in your progressions. So if your feet aren't good, especially in this kind of an offense, you can't go through your progressions and be in the proper position to throw the football on time and accurately. And I think that's something Baker, to be fair to him, he's probably thinking a little bit more out there than he would like to be thinking. It's a new offense. Again, it is very much a rhythm, timing-based offense that comes from repetition that he has not gotten. He did change a little bit of his footwork out of the shotgun at the behest of Alex Van Pelt, but doing these things in practice when you can't be hit and doing these things not at full game speed, it's not second nature yet. And I think that is, for this offense to be where it needs to be, all of that stuff needs to be second nature. And you need to, when you see your first read and you know it's there, you can't hesitate. And he even talked about it. I thought that was telling. Talked about that out route to Odell Beckham Jr. in the first half.
Yeah.
I saw it. He was open, and I didn't throw it. And I've got to just be quick and decisive and trust my eyes and trust my arm and my abilities and trust this offensive scheme. Because, look, the line against a great front played great.
Yeah, really good.
It played great. So we need to capitalize on that. There were opportunities, and Baker, when he watched the tape, I'm sure would say, man, we actually could have put up a lot of points in this game. And it's not just Baker. I'm not trying to say that at all. But I think a lot of it has to do with the comfort and the rhythm. But when you're the quarterback, it starts with you. You are the distributor. You are the only person who touches the ball every play, and you ultimately decide where the ball goes. And there still is, as Kevin Stefanski said when he sat down with me, we want to eliminate the gray, black and white. There's still gray because you're still learning what the proper steps are and the rhythm and cadence of this offense and the decision-making within this offense.
Yeah, that's it. And that's something that is going to come with time. Unfortunately, time is not something that you have a ton of in the National Football in the National Football League. And in this case, you've got a short week against another number one quarterback coming in here who led his team down and really for a game-winning drive that was kind of taken away from them and they're feeling very good. Cincinnati can't wait to play this game. So there will be a ton of pressure. There's a ton of pressure on Baker already this year. There will be a boatload of pressure on him on Thursday night against Cincinnati. In terms of Odell Beckham Jr., he met with the media as well. We will have that for you coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Both down.
All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily on a Tuesday edition of the program. Odell Beckham Jr. certainly did not have the impact he wanted after what was a spectacular camp out of the receiver out of LSU. He met with the media this morning. Let's have a listen.
Hey, Odell. Hey, everybody's just still wondering.
Both down.
You and Baker are going to kind of really get it connected. What more can you guys do to ensure that you guys have that needed chemistry when Sunday comes around or Thursday comes around?
Obviously Sunday wasn't what we wanted, but more game reps will be the way to go.
And Baker was saying earlier that it has to come naturally getting the ball to you. But can you understand that when he sees you over there and you're single covered, that it may go through his head, man, I got to get him the ball right now. This is the optimal time to do it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've never played quarterback, so I could never – it's very hard to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And as a receiver, you're like, man, I'm open or this or that. And that's just not – it's not feasible for me to think about what he may be going through back there, or if there's pressure or if there's things going on. So I know there's a lot on his plate. I know that none of us played the way that we would have wanted to play on Sunday. And you kind of just have to give your hats off to the Ravens. They came out there. They were the better team. They beat the shit out of us, and we keep it pushing. It was the first game, kind of getting the feel for no fans and how the first NFL game will go. And it obviously didn't go the way that we wanted, but kind of just toss it up as a mulligan. You got 15 other games, 15 other opportunities, and just keep it moving.
Odell, are you the type of player that likes to get involved early? Like, does that just juice you up a little bit if you could get one play, one big play, one first down? Does that
Absolutely.
generally change the tenor of the game?
Absolutely. It's like,
okay, so go ahead.
It's like a shooter putting up a couple threes early, and you hit 1, 2 of them,